Hi everyone, it's Priscilla Walker with Saint Arnold. I am here in San Antonio, Texas. I made the trip this morning because we've got a lot going on this weekend, including a pub crawl tomorrow. So hopefully we will see y'all on Alamo Street tomorrow. But something that I really wanted to check out here in San Antonio that a friend of ours told us about is the Brewing Up Texas exhibit here at the UTSA Institute of Culture. And I'm here with Dr. Sarah Gould. Hi, Doctor.
Hi. Hi, welcome.
Thank you for having us. Can you kind of tell us about how the idea for this exhibit started?
Yes, many years ago, around 2012, we actually had an exhibit in-house called Made in Texas, and that was an exhibit about all kinds of things made in Texas, and that really got us thinking about beer. We had a very small section in that exhibit about Texas beer, but there's so much happening right now in Texas in the craft brewing industry that it seemed like it was something worth its own exhibit. Having said that, it took a while for us to come up with a concrete plan to do that, and also we ended up finding the perfect person to be our guest curator for the exhibit, so it all came together this year in 2017.
That's awesome. And how long is this exhibit going to be open for?
This exhibit is going to be open for a year, so you have until next October to get over here. But between now and then, we'll be doing a series of programs related to the exhibit, so there will be reasons for you to come back and visit it again over the course of the year.
Cool. So I noticed this timeline when I first walked in. Can you kind of walk us a bit through it?
Yeah, so beer is really ancient, and so we started with a world timeline down here that goes back to about 10,000 BCE when the grains that we now put in beer start appearing, and then it walks you through the history of world beer, U.S. beer history, and also Texas beer history. And as you follow the timeline, it'll lead you to the exhibit.
Wow, and yeah, you see how women were very involved in brewing back then, and you got some Greek playwrights talking about beer, so there's a lot of history there. Some nice hops, and then we get into the Texas history up here, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Most people will I think have some knowledge of Cosmo Spotzel, who took over the Shiner Brewery and made it a big deal. Also, Howard Hughes had a brewery in Houston, the famous actor and millionaire. Other places like El Paso, Pierre Celis in Austin, and all the way up to Saint Arnold.
Hey, that guy looks familiar. Mr. Brock Wagner, hello. He is the owner of Texas's oldest craft brewery. So, of course, yeah, we're very interested in this exhibit. So then we would come this way. Oh, I love that, by the way. That is so cool.
Iconic.
Yes. And then over here, probably the biggest beer can that I've ever seen.
Yeah, we have these structural columns that help support the building, and so since it's right next to the entryway, we always try to figure out some creative way to wrap the column, and so this time we did a big beer can, and so we've got the exhibit logo and then an intro to the exhibit on the side here. But yeah, it's a giant beer can.
So how long did it take you to curate a lot of these items?
Okay, well, first I should just tell you there's a whole team of us. It's not just me. Okay. So actually, my predecessor had this idea, and he was the one who contacted, who became our guest curator, and you'll get to meet him in just a second. So between the guest curator, my previous boss, myself, and then our exhibit designer, our exhibit fabricator, our audiovisual team, which came up with some great visuals that you'll see in a minute, it took us, oh gosh, a year?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, how many breweries do you say that you've worked with on this project? Like a ballpark?
Oh gosh,
yeah.
At least half a dozen. So we've got Shiner, the Pearl, which is not a brewery anymore, but they do have a site that you can go and visit here in San Antonio. We've got Lone Star, which also is not a brewery anymore, but we worked through some memorabilia collectors to get that stuff. We worked with Saint Arnold. We worked with a bunch of the craft brew companies, Freetail, Alamo. I know I'm forgetting some. Travis will tell you more.
Cool. You were showing me these barrels earlier. There's some really cool stuff in here and some good information on it. You've got bottles from the 1880s that were dug up.
Right. So we have some things that are a little unexpected here in the barrels, and this, what you see here, is a Conrad and Company Budweiser bottle. Now, Conrad owned the Budweiser label, bought it when it went St. Louis, but this was dug up in an archaeological dig in Houston just recently. This was a neighborhood that was previously known as Frosttown. It was a German. Some inventive person took a bunch of these bottles and buried them upside down, sort of halfway sticking out of the ground, and they were using them as a garden edge around their little flower bed.
Wow.
And so when they dug these up, they found a whole row of them, and they were all upside down. So they figured out, they were using this as an edger. But it tells you something about the connection on the railroad between St. Louis and Houston, and the fact that the German population in Houston was drinking this, beer that was coming in on the railroad from St. Louis.
Cool. I notice you have a sign over here about beer gods and saints, and a name that definitely pops up is the Arnold of Melts. That is our namesake. So yeah, it's really cool to see some of the stuff here. And you were telling me about this beer mug over here from the 1968 Hemisphere?
Yeah, so ITC, where we are, our museum is located on Hemisphere's property. We were the Texas Pavilion at Hemisphere. Next year will be the 50th anniversary of Hemisphere. And so at Hemisphere there were three major beer pavilions. One was Falstaff beer, one was Pearl, and one was Lone Star. So that was the souvenir mug from the Falstaff Pavilion.
Cool. Mm-hmm. And then we've got an old stein over here from, that was Cosmos?
Yeah, so Cosmos Spotzel of Shiner Beer. That was his stein from Germany. He was himself from Germany, but as a brewmaster, he got to go all over the world. He was a brewmaster in Egypt, for something called Pyramid Brewing in Cairo, and then he moved to, I believe, Canada before moving to Texas to take over Shiner. So brewing can take you all over the world.
It can, yeah. I think it's a universal beverage that everybody enjoys. Yeah, very cool. And you've got some information on how beer is made. So there's a lot of educational stuff here. I mean, these artifacts, do you know what the oldest artifact is that you have in here?
That's a good question. I think it might be the William Esser bottle that was back over there. So that was a bottle that was dug out of the San Antonio River next to the original Lone Star Brewing factory. These ones are from about 1870, so I think they're just They might be around the same age as that, actually. But these ones are from LaGrange, the Kreische Brewery, which is now a state park, so you can go and visit it. They didn't get, with the hurricane, that area got hit, but this site came out okay. So I believe they are open to the public right now. But all of these came from a brewery founded by a man named Kreisch, who brought his knowledge of beer making from Germany with him. And that's a story that really is an important connection between our mission here and this exhibit. So at the Institute of Texan Cultures, we tell the stories of the diverse peoples of Texas. And beer really takes off in Texas as a result of German immigration. And so that's why there's a strong connection between our mission and this exhibit.
Wow, I really like that. Just to remind everyone, we are here at the UTSA Institute of Texan Culture, and they have a new exhibit, Brewing Up Texas, and one of the curators here, Dr. Sarah Gould, is kind of showing us around. And she also has a friend here that was contacted, and maybe some of you might know Travis because he's been around in the area for a while. Hi, Travis.
Absolutely.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So how did you get involved in this project?
A previous exhibits director contacted me about 7 years ago, and exhibit. But the brewing traditions in Texas are so rich, and now that there's 220 breweries in Texas. I think when we first started talking about this, there were 36 breweries, and now there's 220, and there's a new one opening, about every week, every other week in Texas at least. Yeah. So it was the time was ripe. There was a lot of interest in it. There's a lot of people sort of know a lot about the breweries near them. You know, people in Houston know Saint Arnold. Well, people statewide know Saint Arnold. They know their Shiner. They know, and they know their local, but they don't. A lot of times they don't know the history, the deep history that we used to have so many breweries and that they were so much a part of the culture, and we wanted to make that connection to how that culture has sort of come back again full circle into this what we now call craft brewing.
Cool. I really like this.
So this is
Yeah,
our
this
Texas
is
wall.
yeah.
Our Texas wall, and a lot of hard work went into drinking these beers, to empty them out. Emily Spickler here in San Antonio brought me lots of bottles of Saint Arnold, and I had to enlist some volunteers to help me empty them in a humane way.
It must have been hard to find volunteers.
It was very difficult, and I found lots of volunteers to help me empty from my own personal collection a Divine Reserve #1.
Wow.
Only 300 barrels of this were made, of that first batch of Divine Reserve. I say this even as Divine Reserve 17 is in fermentation right now, I believe.
Or 18, yeah.
18, that's right, I'm sorry. 17 is out now, 18 is in the fermentation. But we have just a lot of different breweries. I think there's a Divine Reserve 2 down here, another rare beer that we busted open a few weeks ago. Santo, yes.
An art car. Actually, you know what? Something that I've found kind of interesting is like the amount of bottles, but now how many cans are showing up in Texas. And, you know, what do you think about cans coming in?
Yeah, cans, did an article for San Antonio Magazine earlier this year about cans versus bottles. It's sort of a debate that's gone on for years. And when I started doing the research for it, about the same time as I was doing research on this, I discovered that, you know, cans had been around since the 1930s, but they were considered a luxury back then because you could get a return on your bottle. And so people were getting cans just for the convenience of them, not to have the glass. And so once again, we've come full circle back around again, and now everybody who swore that they would only drink beer out of bottles now is saying, the cans are the way to go. And can technology has changed. People can imagine a metallic taste, but they're not getting it from the cans that are made today. And of course, Oscar Blues out of Colorado, which now has a second brewery in Austin, they were the first ones to really can craft beer. And now almost everybody's going to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people have an active lifestyle that drink beer. It's not just people sitting around eating, Frito pie with their beer. They're out there biking, they're camping, they're hiking, they're, with their beer. And so it's a great packaging.
Exactly.
But some people still like the feel of a long neck in their hand,
yeah.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. And then we've got a cool little interactive thing over here. I think this is some great technology that they have. So can you explain how these videos kind of work?
Yeah, so we have, this is sort of a representative of sort of different parts of the state, 6 breweries. And in fact, we have a great video from you all that'll go up in the spring along with 4 or 5 other breweries. So what you do is go ahead and pick one and pull a tap handle.
I'll do this one.
Okay?
From the Houston area.
From Houston area, from No Label and Katie.
So you pull the tap, and it's like they serve you a beer, and you get to watch the video.
Correct.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's very cool.
Short video on each one.
Yeah.
Just gives you just a sampling of what Texas craft beer
Yeah.
has to offer.
Yeah.
How it's made, and to show these small operations. Shiner not so small anymore compared to the big boys. Yeah.
Could you, so you've been writing about the industry for a while. Could you have ever imagined, what it's grown into, and there being an exhibit like this?
No. This is really really surprising to me. That first of all, I learned this world of collectors and went to a lot of their meetings of people who collect things, a lot of which are represented here from a few collections, including from Charlie Stotts, who collects Pearl and Lone Star, and some Shiner, and some other old Texas stuff that's in this exhibit. The people who owned the Pearl, which is the redevelopment of the old Pearl Brewery, owned a lot of this stuff. Shiner has a warehouse full of old stuff that they have on loan. And so there was a lot of stuff out there, kind of stuck in warehouses and in people's homes that we kind of unearthed. And then of course, there's no end of stuff that you can get from breweries.
Right.
And the fact that people are so passionate about collecting stuff from breweries now. I'll go into, say, Blue Star Brewing Company, which is one of the oldest surviving brew pubs in Texas, and people will come in and ask for stickers, and they're always out. But people go around the state or the country and they collect stickers from breweries, or they collect coasters, or they collect, the bottle caps or whatever it is. But they're very passionate about both their brands, or they're passionate about collecting stuff to do with it. So it's just become so much a part of the culture, a little bit different than it was when the Germans were drinking their beer, but it's very much in a different way. People are kind of geeking out about beer, and it's good to see that they're interacting with it, and it's more than just it's not just a way to get a buzz. That's not what it's there for. It's all about the flavor now.
Yeah, flavor and community
Right.
and history and culture coming together. Well, I want to thank you and Dr. Gould for giving us a little sneak peek of this exhibit. Again, it's open for another year until next October, so please come and check it out. Hey, maybe you can check it out before coming to our pub crawl tomorrow afternoon. It's really close to where those bars will be, so I think that's a good pre-pub crawl activity to come check this out. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you again.